Let's talk about sharpening gouges. A gouge is our main tool for clearing away excess and waste wood. We can see it's a curved semicircular blade. If we compare it to a standard flat chisel, it's the same principle. We have our flat side and our bevel cut on the opposite side. Gouge is the same, having a flat side and then a bevel ground on the outside of the curve. It doesn't really matter what size the gouge is, the principle of sharpening is the same. Let's look a little bit about tool geometry. While we're sharpening, maintaining the correct tool geometry is very important. At the top we can see a side view of our blade. With our flat chisel it's easily recognizable. The gouge is the same. We have our flat side and our bevel. For our handheld tools, that angle is about 20 degrees. For tools that we use with a hammer, requiring a lot more force, that angle's a lot more, 25 to 30 degrees. Ideally, this inside should be perfectly flat, and if the tool is in good condition, we don't have to do anything there. We want to, when we're sharpening, maintain this angle right around the edge of this curved blade. So this stays perfectly flat. This bevel also stays very flat, but is consistent around the curve of the blade. We don't want to cut a secondary bevel here because it increases the angle of the cutting edge, makes it much harder to cut by hand. Likewise, we don't want to make a bevel on this flat side, which will spoil the cutting edge. You may have a sharp point, but you have a much greater angle of the actual cutting edge. And we definitely don't want this kind of curvature. Again, it makes a very steep angle, much harder to cut. Also, while we're sharpening the tool, we want to keep either a perfectly straight cutting edge profile or a slightly extended rounded edge. Both of these cut efficiently and well. This kind of shape where we've ground the edge into a negative curve or having some kind of funny irregular curve will not cut wood well at all. This is a different profile of gouge which has a very shallow curve. We can see that the flat gouge has a very shallow curve. The principles are the same, however this one can have a much more extended curve at the front for efficient cutting. Like we've done in all our previous videos, progressing through the different grades of sharpening grit is very important for achieving a sharp edge, and we'll follow the same principles with sharpening our gouges. This kind of sharpening stone has these shallow curved profiles and then these positive curved profiles here, which are handy for sharpening gouges. These ones we can run our gouge along the curve. However, they don't fit exactly, so we still have to rotate the blade as we're moving backwards and forwards to maintain this even bevel right around the curve. Different profiles will fit a different curvature of blade, smaller and more curved. These ones were used for dressing the inside flat part of our blade by holding the tool flat against there and moving it backwards and forwards, keeping the inside of the blade very flat. Depending on the curvature, again, we'd use a different one. What I will demonstrate will actually be using the flat side, which we can also use to grind this outside bevel. If you don't have one of these, you can also buy a shaped stone. We call these a slip stone. We can see this has a rounded bevel, and again that will fit on the inside here. We always keep this stone very flat. We don't want to create a bevel on this side. You can also make a wooden profile and wrap a piece of carborundum wet and dry abrasive paper to do the same thing. In fact, I use this one, which is very narrow, to dress the inside of these very small gouges. Again, keeping this very flat. So the most important part of sharpening your gouge is maintaining the correct geometry, having a rounded bevel even and flat, and the inside of the tool very flat, and the leading edge with a good profile.